Hi, my name is Josh Foers, and the video you're about to watch is my implementation demo reel. This video will be part one of a series of videos describing the techniques used to create the sci-fi stealth game Time Freeze. In this video, I'll be focusing on how I designed and implemented the enemy AI behaviour and sound systems. I will also describe how I created a dynamic difficulty adjustment system using enemy sound. All sounds, systems, and VFX utilised within the game were designed and implemented by me. Without further ado, let's get into it. After sourcing an environment and various character assets from the Epic Games marketplace, I began by compiling an asset list for all the sounds that would be needed within the game. This would help me manage my time most effectively during this project. Sounds would be sourced using a combination of field recording, studio recording, and through adapting assets from a variety of sample libraries. Many sounds also featured layers created using synthesis, such as this sci-fi train. To create the enemy weapon sounds, I adopted a procedural approach by designing variations of each of the following layers. These assets are then placed into random containers in Wwise, all of which is contained within a blend container. When the blend container is called from a weapon fire event within the game, a unique gunshot is created at runtime. This system helps reduce the amount of repetition heard by the player without costing excessive memory resources. Within the game, this weapon fire sound system is triggered via the following process. Step 1. The enemy is told to attack the player via a behaviour tree task, which plays the animation montage. A randomised float system is used to vary the montage play rate to make the weapon fighter less predictable and more realistic. Step 2. On each notification event triggered within this sequence, the shoot event is called within the enemy weapon blueprint. Step 3. The shoot event spawns a projectile from both the left and right weapon sockets towards the player while simultaneously calling the weapon fire sound system in Wwise. And finally, step 4. In the event of the projectile hitting the player, this will cause their health variable to decrease and an additional impact sound system will trigger. The player's objective in the game is to deactivate the 6 aerial defense systems in the level before evacuating the base using the spaceship. The player is quickly made aware that the base is overrun with hostiles, and avoiding detection therein lies the challenge. A visual UI system is featured within the game to help the player locate their objectives. However, it was important that this system didn't give away the location of enemies. In the game, the player must adopt signal listening to avoid enemy detection. This is fundamental to the DDA system in Time Freeze, therefore the objective scanner function was developed, allowing the player to identify objectives without causing the player to become ignorant to auditory feedback. The objective scanner function in Time Freeze is built using post-processing material effects. Triggering the scanner creates a ring around the player's absolute world position. The radius of this ring is determined by a timeline, which over the course of 12 seconds expands to the size of the map before returning to the player. Several objective-related meshes within the level are assigned a render custom depth pass, along with a custom depth stencil value. When these meshes are within the radius of the sphere mask, the post-processing effect is activated, making them visible anywhere in the level. Once the player has successfully collected all keys, this then triggers the render custom depth pass to activate on the spaceship, which leads them to their final objective.
Make your way to the nearest ship for evacuation.
A huge component within this project consisted of developing the enemy artificial intelligence, or AI. It was important to make the AI behaviour believable to the player, and the sound implementation had to support this in order to maintain player immersion. A behaviour tree is used to dictate the actions of the enemies in the game. The system utilises enemy states to determine which branch of a behaviour tree to execute. As the game starts, the enemies begin within the patrol state. Whilst patrolling, they will follow a designated path between different patrol points. This route is determined by assigning the patrol point actors to a blueprint actor component on the BP Enemy Walker B blueprint. This component is instance editable, meaning that different patrol paths can be assigned to each enemy. The AI perception systems for hearing and sight are then used to instigate enemy state changes within the detection system. The system operates by recognizing stimuli sources from the player. These perception updates are added to an array before they are filtered into functions designed for handling either sight or hearing. Hearing perception updates are caused by noise events, which are reported by player footsteps within the game. Successfully perceiving a noise event will cause an enemy to go into the investigate state, whereas sight perception updates are called every time the player is spotted by the enemy within the sight radius. When the player is unobstructed within this field of vision, this spawns UI detection meter that points towards the enemy. When this progress bar is full, it then changes from white to red and the enemy state changes to attacking. The enemy behaviour works based on a priority ranking system. Each enemy state allows for the NPC to become a progressively higher threat to the player. Therefore, each state can contribute to the next. Sound is a vital component within the system because it is often the first stimulus received. Time Freeze features two player-controlled stealth mechanics that affect the AI perception of the player. When the invisibility mechanic is activated, this sets the isInvisible boolean variable to be true. This then affects the sight perception system by changing the progression rate of the detection meters, giving the player more time to sneak past enemies. The sneak mechanic, however, utilises the AI hearing perception system. Whilst activating the sneak mechanic, this reduces the distance of noise events reported from the player's movements. Therefore, the player must be within a closer distance before triggering the investigate state within an enemy. It was vital to make the enemy sound design as ludic as possible, given that this would be the main variable for adjusting difficulty. By listening to the sound of enemies, the player can identify a wealth of information to help them in the game. The enemies in the game can move at various speeds, which is dictated by state changes on the behaviour tree. Enemy speed determines the volume at which sound plays using real-time parameter controls within Wwise. Enemy speed also dictates the horizontal axis of the enemy animation blend space. Given that different animations will trigger varying locomotion and notify events, this causes different sounds to be triggered depending on the enemy state. This system means that through listening to enemy sounds, the player can identify the location of enemies within the virtual space, as well as the current state of the enemy. The DDA system in Time Freeze utilises two subsystems that control sound parameters affecting the difficulty of the game. The multiplier values used within these subsystems are calculated from the player's performance score. The player performance score starts at a value of 100. Both the DDA system and the countdown timer are initiated as the player reaches the checkpoint entering Section 2. From this point, various in-game events can affect the player performance score. This score is clamped between 67 and 133 in order to maintain the authenticity of the sounds affected. Every 5 seconds, the DDA system will update the two multiplier values to the current performance score. For System 2, a timeline is utilised to interpolate one value to the next. This ensures a seamless transition, preventing the DDA system from being noticed by the player. The following video demonstrates System 2 being simulated for a decreasing performance score. Notice the change in radius of the visual attenuation spheres. So that's the end of part 1 of this video series. There is still so much that I didn't get a chance to cover in this video. So thank you for watching, and please do check back for future iterations of the Time Freeze implementation demo reel series. Bye for now.